Date. Jaya dosha shodhi, Jaya guna deha. Jaya sata sanga, deho e amare. Jaya sata sanga, deho e amare. Bose chi sange rashe. एकाकी आमा नहीं पाया बाला हरि नाम संकीर्तने एकाकी आमा नहीं पाया बाला हरि नाम संकीर्तने तुमी कृपा करी सदबिंदु दिया तुमी कृपा करे सदबिंदु दिया देह कृष्ण नाम धने देहो कृष्ण नाम धने कृष्ण से तुम्हारा कृष्ण दीते पारा तुम्हारा शक्ति आचे कृष्ण से तुम्हारा कृष्ण दीते पारा तुम्हारा शक्ति आचे कृष्ण से तुम्हारा कृष्ण दीते पारा तुम्हारा शक्ति आचे आमी तो कंगाला कृष्ण कृष्ण बोले आमी तो कंगाला कृष्ण कृष्ण बोले दाई तवा पाछे पाछे दाई तवा पाछे पाछे ओहे वैष्णव ठाकुर जय वैष्णव ठाकुर वैष्णव ठाकुर जय वैष्णव ठाकुर जय भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर जय भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर
Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Ram Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare जय गौरा निताय जय गौरा निताय जय गौरा निताय जय गौरा निताय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव नित्याय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्याय गौर हरि बोल नित्याय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्याय गौर हरि बोल जय ओम विष्णुपाद परम इस डिवाइन डे सभय चरण भक्ति स्वामी शिल प्रभुपाद की इस्कान बीबीटी संस्था वचन शिल प्रभुपाद की जय ओम विष्णुपाद परम श्री डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर शिल प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम को श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत राधे शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की वृंदावन धाम मथुरा धाम की मायापुर धाम नवद्वीप धाम की कुरुक्षेत्र क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की गंगा माई यमुना माई की तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की सामवेद भक्त वृंद की श्रील प्रभुपाद ट्रांसेंडल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की कलियुग पावन श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे all glories to assembled devotees all glories to assembled devotees all glories to assembled devotees all glories Shri Guru and Gauranga all glories Shri Prabhupada की ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय बदले श्रीमती भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नित्यम नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपादकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सगगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सगगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितंश्च नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरतस्वे नमः पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. Today is the disappearance day of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So we will try to hear some glorification of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And by that glorification, actually we get purification and we can make some spiritual advancement. So that is the motivation behind speaking this, because I don't have any qualification to speak. So before speaking, I take blessings and permission from the assembled Vaishnavas. So our motivation is to by hearing the glories of a pure devotee, the eternal associate of the Lord, we get purified and then we get inspiration from their life, and then we can make advancement in our spiritual life. That's the idea. And Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur actually gives a warning. So the life of a pure devotee, one should not look at through mundane vision. How the activities of the Lord, right? Activities of the Lord cannot be understood through mundane vision, because the Lord is completely spiritual and he is beyond anything material. He is completely transcendental. And when we look through our mundane vision, what we get? Bewilderment. So that is why so-called scholars, when they try to understand Krishna through their intellectual prowess, they get bewildered. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives that warning, how the Supreme Lord is completely transcendental. He cannot be understood. His activities and pastimes cannot be understood through mundane logic and vision. If you do, we get bewildered and we will commit offense. We will start thinking that Lord is ordinary. That is one of the reason, the Vedic scriptures, especially the Upanishads, does not describe about the Lord directly. Because when we are under material conception, when we try to understand the glories of the Lord, what we will do, we will always try to compare that with something material. When the scriptures describe the Lord is so beautiful, what we will see? Oh, Lord is so beautiful. How beautiful? Maybe beautiful like me. Maybe beautiful like my child. Right? Like that, we will always compare the Lord's beauty with something mundane, because that's all we know. All we know is mundane vision. We will always try to relate something with mundane vision only, right? If I'm telling something, whatever I'm speaking, it should connect with already what you know. Otherwise, you will not be able to understand anything. That is why a good teacher, whenever he tries to explain new concept, he will try to understand the student's capacity and then what the student already knows. And then that way he can present the new idea so that he can relate with what he already knows. Then we can assimilate. So what we know is only mundane vision. If scriptures try to explain the beauty of Krishna, which is completely transcendental and spiritual, we will try to bring down Krishna also to our mundane level only. That is why Upanishads does not glorify directly the Lord. First establishes the transcendental position of the Lord by describing how he does not have any material qualities. He is not like that. He is not like that. Like that, he removes all the mundane conception. And then also sometimes it gives contradictory information, like how Lord does not have any legs, but he walks faster than anybody. Lord does not have any ears, but he can hear everything. Lord does not have mundane eyes, but he sees everything. Why? This is to remove our mundane conception first. It's hence Vedas, especially the Upanishad, if we see, they never directly glorifies the Lord. It gives only, removal of not like this, not like this. Neti, na iti, na iti. Not this, not this. It removes all the mundane conception. So hence, the Lord cannot be understood through mundane vision. Similarly, the birth, activities, and pastimes of a pure devotee also cannot be understood mundane. If you do, we are digging our own grave because we will commit offense. So this is the warning Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives. So when we try to understand the life of acharyas, the pure devotees, we should have this consciousness that we will have a tendency to relate their life with something mundane. We should not, because we are actually will commit offense, then we will not make advancement. So this we should always keep in when we hear the activities of the Lord's pure devotees also. Bhakti Vinod Thakur is an eternal associate of Lord Krishna. He's a Manjari, associate of Srimati Radharani, the Sakis. And then he is also eternal associate of Lord Chaitanya. But when he appeared in this world, when we hear his life, we will think that he is like a normal person. He is like a seeking for philosophy and reading various literatures and Western philosophy and took up Western life and then reading this, reading that. And then finally he discovered Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita and then looked like, like us. We are also like sadhakas. He also looking like a sadhaka only. No. Actually, all this pastimes done to set an example for the devotees how one should progress in spiritual life. But he is an eternal associate of the Lord. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives 4 examples of how the pure devotees' activities also cannot be understood through mundane logic. He gives the example of Ramananda Raya. Ramananda Raya took birth in a Kayastha family. And then he was like a governor of Madras province. He's like a politician. His activities all look like politician, but no. Bhakti Saraswati Thakur says you should not understand the life of Ramananda Raya like that. He's an associate of the eternal associate of the Lord. And then he gives another example how Arjun, right? Arjun is eternal associate of Krishna. And Arjuna was bewildered in the battlefield. Completely bewildered, confused, started crying. Why? So that Lord can speak Bhagavad Gita. So the confusion, the bewilderment of Arjuna should not understand through some mundane thing. This is all Lord's arrangement to speak Bhagavad Gita. And then other example, he gives the life of Mukunda from Chaitanya Charitamrita. He looked like he is like a, doctor, Ayurvedic doctor, Mukunda Sarkar. But no, we should not understand through some mundane. He is a pure devotee of the Lord, eternal associate. Another example he gives is Pundariki Vidyanidhi. Pundariki Vidyanidhi is surrounded by so much material opulence. Even Gadadhar Pandit was kind of little, by looking at Pundariki Vidyanidhi, he was little bewildered. But once he heard Bhagavatam, the sloka of Bhagavatam, immediately the ecstasy started manifesting in Pundariki Vidyanidhi. So he gives this 4 example. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Similarly, the life of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, when we try to hear, don't make this judgment or grave error of judging mundanely or materially. And then we can understand Shishir Kumar Ghosh. He was the founder of Amrita Basar Patrika. At that time, that was the world's largest daily newspaper in the world. Not even English newspapers. Amrita Basar Patrika. He was the founder of Shishir Kumar Ghosh. And he was actually closely connected to Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Then he said, after observing his Bhakti Vinod Thakur's life very closely and his activities and his determination and dedication, even though he is not, connected directly to the Sampradaya, but Shishir Kumar Ghosh said, by looking at your life and dedication and sincerity, I heard about this 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. I don't know them personally. But by looking at your life, you are the 7th Goswami. And he is the one who gave the title for Bhakti Vinod Thakur, the 7th Goswami. Shishir Kumar Ghosh's grandson later became, the Chief Minister of Bengal. Tarun Kumar Ghosh. And Prabhupada was connected to him also. This family of Shishir Kumar Ghosh family was very close to our movement. And then Tarun Kumar Ghosh helped also Prabhupada. And he gave this title, 7th Goswami. So with that context, we will try to understand the appearance and some activities, the glories of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur was born on September 2nd, 1838. When he was born, his name was given as Kedarnath Datta. He was born at a village called Ula Nagara. He was born to Anand Chandra Datta and Jagat Mohini Mata. And at that time, right, that village was very opulent and fully Vedic culture was flourishing nicely. It had 1,500 Brahmana families. And then Bhakti Vinod Thakur, as Kedarnath Datta, when he was born, that family was very royal family. How royal they are, how rich they are. Each one of the children had an elephant as a pet for them. You can think of how opulent they were. So he was brought in a nice Vedic culture. From his childhood, he was imbibed with nice Vedic culture, and he always used to hear the stories from Ramayana and Mahabharata during festival times. And especially, there is one gatekeeper, security guard at their home. He used to tell the pastimes from Ramayana and Mahabharata, the Lord's activities. Actually, that gatekeeper, the security guard, he was actually a dacoit before. But somehow he corrected himself, and then he used to tell the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Kedarnath Datta. So from his childhood, he was always attracted to Vedic literatures. At the age of 7, right, he joined that college. Right, in Krishna Nagar, right, there was a college. There he studied Bengali and mathematics. And then he was very, very proficient. At the same time that year, he lost his elder brother and one of the uncle. And the next year, he lost 2 of his younger brothers. If you hear, the life of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, it was not easy at all. He was having so much of difficulty from his young age. He lost 3 of his brothers, all the siblings. He lost his father also at the age of 11. And then even though they were born in a very opulent family, the entire family's wealth dwindled. They become poor. And then he had several diseases, so much of difficulty. And then several times in his career, he was transferred, no stable place. But in spite of that, all that, what kept him is his sincerity and dedication. So this is a lesson we can learn from the life of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. The life will be full of ups and downs. There will be all kind of difficulties will come. But one should be sincere and dedicated in the path of Bhakti. Without sincerity and dedication, there is no advancement. Even if you look at people who are mundanely successful, for any success, whether spiritual success or material success, you need sincerity and dedication. We might look at, oh, that person was lucky, become successful. There is nothing called luck in this world. It's all, some amount of hard work, either in this life or previous life, somebody have done. In the material nature, nothing is free. In the Western world, there is a saying, There is no free lunch. There is no free lunch. That means you have to pay the price. Either in this life or earlier life, one should have paid the price. Then only one will be able to get something. In the material world, either no transaction is free. Either you got to pay through credit card or debit card. Debit card means if you already have money in your account, then you swipe, then something will come out. That is like punya. Punya means you should have done already, accumulated punya, and then it is deposited in your account, then later the results will come. That is like debit card. If already it is there, it will come. If you otherwise swipe, insufficient funds, right? It will get rejected. There is another card called credit card. In credit card, you don't need to have money already in your account. You keep swiping. Later, you will be paying it with interest. That is like Papa. Papa is like, you don't have to have anything. You continue to perform sinful activities, you will get reaction later with interest. So in material world, there nothing is free. Neither it has to come through Papa or Punya. Nothing is free. Similarly, right, to be successful, even materially, one should be sincere and dedicated. What to speak in the spiritual life. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur was able to navigate all these difficulties because of his sincerity and dedication. That's one lesson we can learn. As I said, he lost his brothers at young age, right? And then because of that, his mother became very attached to him because he was the only son left. Then, at the age of 9, he learned astrology. And then he saw his family fortune dwindling. And then at the age of 11, his father passed away. All these things created an environment for him to make him inquisitive about life. He had not all these questions at young age, the questions of life. What is the purpose of life? Why all these things are happening? Does God really exist? Now, we teach this in our Discover Yourself course, right? During college time or later introductory course. But he had all these inquiries at very young age. Because if you look at it, this is how one progresses spiritually. Until we have questions, one is not intrigued by spirituality. Even though Bhakti Vinod Thakur is eternal associate, pure devotees, the Lord teaches through his life. Prabhupada says, right? But there is a Bengali proverb. Whenever mother-in-law wanted to teach the new daughter-in-law in the house, he never directly teaches the daughter-in-law. She teaches through the daughter. If the daughter-in-law newly cooks in the house, he put little too salt or little too spicy, she will never chastise the daughter-in-law. Even though daughter-in-law is the one who cooked, she will tell the daughter, hey, how many times I have to tell you, don't put so much salt. She will chastise the daughter. Then immediately daughter-in-law will understand, oh, okay, my mother-in-law does not like too much salt or too much spice. Because there is no relationship established between the daughter-in-law and mother-in-law. If she teaches, it will go in the wrong way only. So similarly, for any knowledge to transfer, there has to be a relationship. There should be a student-teacher relationship, guru-disciple relationship. Without relationship, we try to give some instruction, it will go in the wrong way only. So similarly, we have forgotten our relationship with the Lord. When Lord tries to teach us, we will not accept it. So the Lord chooses his pure devotees to teach through their life. It is not because of their karma they are going through like this. It is Lord's arrangement so that we can learn the lessons from the pure devotee's life. And all these things we can see the ups and downs in his life, the questions in life he all got. That created some intrigueness in his life. That's what we should understand. At the age of 12, he got married, right? His mother arranged this marriage so that, at those times, some dowry will be given whenever the girl is married. Then maybe that can be utilized. Mother felt because all the family wealth dwindled away. That was done. Chayamani, that was her name. And also the same year, he got extremely sick, he got sick. And he got some skin diseases, nobody could cure. And then locally there was one local fakir was there, Fakir Golok, that was his name. And he, through some remedies, he cured his diseases. And then also he gave two predictions. He said the entire village of Ula Nagara will be devastated, destroyed by cholera. And then in future, you will become a great Vaishnava Acharya. These two predictions he gave, this fakir. And then later, at the age of 14, he came to Calcutta. And then he joined the University of Calcutta. And then he studied there. That's where he learned English. He studied under one famous professor, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. He was a great scholar. Some of you might have studied in English book or something, Vidyasagar. So he was a great philosopher, professor. He was also a great, scholar. So he studied under him also. So he became very proficient in English language. And he used to participate in this British literary club. He used to go and listen, and he all used to write poems. And then he heard, right, in 18. So during this college time, right, he became very proficient in English. He had this ability to write at a very young age. He wrote a 30 volume book on King Porus. It's also mundane. If you look at it, it's like mundane. Why this mundane thing he is writing? He wrote 25 volume books on Vikram and Vetal. 75, like 50 plus volumes of book on wrote on mundane literature, because these are all training for him in writing in English language. So this King Porus, like how he fought, Alexander in the great battle, all of them he was writing. So all these things he was writing in this British literary club, and he was going and reading. At that time, there is one Britisher, Mr. Dale. He asked a question. You are studying and reading and so much scholarly debate you are doing. What is the purpose of all this reading? Like that was a turning point in Vinod Thakur's life. Why I'm reading all these things? Why I'm doing all this scholarly work? What is the point of all the learning? What is the purpose of education? What is the purpose of scholarship? That was an intriguing question. That question, created a thought process. Why? What is the purpose of knowledge? So later in 1856, he came back to Ulanagar. As predicted, the entire village was destroyed by cholera. And he took his mother with him back to Calcutta. He saw his sister also dying there at the time. So if we see so much of calamity and tragedy in his life, but he was always determined, sincerity and dedication. He came back to, Calcutta, took his mother back, and then at that time, 1857, he became very close to Satyendranath and Vijayendranath and Rabindranath Tagore. Tagore family was very famous at that time in Bengal. He became connected with them, and then they used to discuss all the things what is happening in the political circle. Because at the time only uprising against British was getting prominent. 1857, and at the age of 19, first time he got a job as a teacher for second standard students. His salary was 15 rupees, and that was not sufficient to maintain his family. It was going so much of difficulty. His mother has to sell all this jewelry, all her jewelry to sustain the family. And then he was transferred later, right? Second job he got as an accountant in a sugar mill. At that time, one of the customers for the sugar mill, one of the merchants, he paid extra money than what he is supposed to pay. And then him, Bhakti Vinod Thakur was the accountant at that time. And he called that merchant, and then he said, "Arey, you paid too much for what the goods you took is only this much, made so much payment. Here is the money." He called him to return the money. When the owner of the sugar mill came to know, "Arey, you are too Brahmanical. You are being too truthful. If you are like this, you cannot succeed in business. Business means cheating only." Eh? So he actually threw him away from the job. He lost the job because of this, because of his truthfulness. Then again he become, at the time also he got a letter from his grandfather, maternal grandfather from Odisha, right? Raja Vallabh Datta, maternal grandfather. There is a village called Choti near Katak. He got a letter from his grandfather that he was very sick and he is going to leave the body. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur came, Kedarnath Thakur came with his mother to Katak, the Choti village. When he came, he saw his father was like, his grandfather was healthy and he was eating nicely. This Raja Vallabh Datta had a strange lifestyle. All day he will fast. At midnight, he will cook kachoris and then put chilies and eat. So he peculiar lifestyle. And when Bhakti Vinod Thakur came, he said, "Arey, you are like very healthy. You called that you are dying. You are fine. Why did you call us?" And then he said, "I am going to leave my body in 3 days. I called you to witness that." And then he says, he also gave predictions. 2 predictions he gave. He said, till age of 27, you will be having difficulty only. At age of 27, whatever career you will be taking, that will become your stable career for the rest of life. And then second prediction he gave, you will become a great Vaishnavacharya. So again, we can see, second time he was predicted. So he was a great devotee of the Lord. He was a great Vaishnava, Raja Vallabh Datta. And then after 3 days, exactly as he predicted, 3 days later, he left his body. And Bhakti Vinod Thakur writes in his biography, I'll just quote. In his autobiography, Bhakti Vinod Thakur writes, quote, he called for me and said, after my death, do not tarry many days in this place. Whatever work you do by the age of 27 will be your principal occupation. You will become a great Vaishnava. I'll give you all my blessings. Immediately after saying this, his life left him, bursting out from the top of his head. Such an amazing death is rarely seen. End quote. So that is the reason his grandfather called him. Even though he was healthy, he knows that he was a yogi. He's a great devotee of the Lord. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur writes that. Then after that, he 1859, he got another job near Katak as a teacher again, as a 6th grade teacher. This time his salary was 21 rupees, little better. Right? Then 1860, he became a headmaster at the village of Badrak, at the town of Badrak. And then at the time his salary was 45 rupees and he was able to sustain his family, mother and wife. And then at that time only, he wrote 2 books because he was living in Odisha. He wrote 2 books, Temples of Odisha and then Mathematics of Odisha. So 2 books he wrote. And then at the time he had the first son was born, 1860. Annada was his name. And around that time, there was a conflict going on. Raja Ram Mohan Rai had a conflict with local scholars and local Hindus. Because Raja Ram Mohan Rai's mother, she was a devotee of Lord Chaitanya. She was a Gaudiya Vaishnava. But Raja Ram Mohan Rai rejected everything. He started his own thing, right? Brahma Samaj. He started, and then he started deviating. He rejected Chaitanya, and his mother rejected him. threw him out of the house. His mother was a devotee of Lord Chaitanya. So because he was kind of against the Hinduism, he was trying to be a rebel. So he had conflict. Local Hindus revolted against Raja Mohan Rai and then tried to attack him. So the conflict was there, and then at that time Bhaktivinoda Thakur was called to mediate because he was known as a gentleman, and he was the one. Later Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur also writes against the philosophies of Raja Mohan Rai because there is Nirakar philosophy, right? Mayavad philosophy, some type of Mayavad philosophy. So he was a gentleman. So he used to be known in the society as a gentleman. And then at that time, right, he actually got developed interest in studying Chaitanya Charitamrita when he was in Odisha. Then he saw that there are so many unbona fide versions of Chaitanya Charitamrita was there. He heard about Lord Chaitanya, but not even one single bona fide copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita was there in entire Gaudadesh, both Orissa and Bengal. For 12 years, he was searching for a bona fide copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita. At that time, there was one publisher in Calcutta. They were publishing so many editions of Chaitanya Charitamrita, but all of them will have some kind of speculation, something injected into something, deviation from the original philosophy. Hence, people were not taking seriously about Vaishnavism. Vaishnavism means you can do whatever you want. You can engage in all illicit activities also. All this pretenders, right? They injected their own slokas within Chaitanya Charitamrita. 12 years he was searching for bona fide Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we have, by Prabhupada's mercy, sometimes we have Chaitanya Charitamrita in our pocket in the phone. Everywhere we go, the entire Vedic literature is available through Veda base. But Chaitanya Charitamrita is inviting us, coming to your pocket, read, but we are not reading. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur struggled for 12 years to find out one bona fide copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And later, he got a letter from government, 1864. One Mr. Healy, one British officer, he was very favorable. He saw actually the brilliancy of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He saw his character. He saw his activities. He was very much appreciative of the qualities of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And at the time, because of this British person, Healy, so he got a letter from the government making 3 offers. Simultaneously, 3 offers he got. 3 jobs. First job was to be a clerk as a tax collector. And then second job was being in charge of stores, various governmental stores. And third job was to become district magistrate. But this district magistrate means you have to write exam and pass. That was the condition given. Civil services exam. So he studied, passed that exam. He became a district magistrate exactly at the age of 27, as his grandfather predicted. And that became his stable profession. At the age of 27, he became, district magistrate. 1868, Dinajpur, he came. That was the place where he was posted. In Dinajpur, he came across the association of devotees, Kamalalochan and Ramananda Vasu. These 2 devotees, very sincere devotees of the Lord Chaitanya, Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And by their association, he got intrigued by teachings of Lord Chaitanya. He started studying Srimad Bhagavatam, right? And then he wrote a book, Sachidananda Premalankar, glorification on Lord Chaitanya, life and activities of Lord Chaitanya. So then 1869, he gave a very famous speech on Srimad Bhagavatam, its philosophy, ethics, and teachings. That speech became so famous. Later, that speech got transcribed and became published as a book. So very, very, profound speech he gave, and that speech again became actually a book. In 1871, right, he was transferred to Champaran. At that time, in the Champaran village, town, there is one Brahma Daitya, one ghost was in the tree. And then local dacoits used to go and rob people, and they had partnership with this Brahma Daitya. And anybody who tries to give witness against this dacoits, that Brahma Daitya will attack people. Hence, people are afraid of, witness against this dacoits. So then Bhaktivinoda Thakur was, given this situation. This is what happening. Then Bhaktivinoda Thakur called all the Brahmanas. He made them to recite Srimad Bhagavatam for several days. After reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, that Brahmadaitya ran away from the place. Right? And then later, 1871, later part after that, he came to Jagannath Puri. When he came to Jagannath Puri, he went to the Samadhi Mandir of Haridas Thakur. He prayed to Haridas Thakur, and he wrote on glorification of Haridas Thakur, a poem. In that poem, only that famous line came: "One reason skill, who says Vaishnavas die." This famous line comes from that Bengali poem he wrote on glorifying Haridas Thakur. After taking blessings from Haridas Thakur, he stayed in Jagannath Puri as a district magistrate. At that time, he was given a very important responsibility. The overseer of the collector, the British officer, Revan Shah, he gave an important responsibility to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Kedarnath Datta. What is that responsibility? There is a complaint from local people that there is a so-called incarnation. One guy, right? Bishak Shen. There is one guy called Bishak Shen. And he was claiming himself that he is the Supreme Lord. In fact, Jagannath is expansion of me. And actually, I am Lord Chaitanya. I am Krishna. And then he started actually enticing women. He started having illicit affairs with women, sometimes married women from good families. They used to get trapped by this gang. And then because of that, so a lot of social disturbance was there, and a lot of complaint was given. And everybody was afraid of this guy because he had some kind of a yogi. He had some spiritual powers. And this job of dealing with him was given to Kedarnath Datta, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur went with policemen. And then he said, "Why did he come here?" He asks. "I came here to arrest you." "Haha, you are arresting me? I am the Supreme Lord. I can punish you, but out of compassion, I'm not punishing you." Like that he was telling. Then when they tried to arrest him, sparks started coming from his body. And then all the policemen, everybody got security guards, they got scared and ran away. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur personally arrested him and brought him to Jagannath Puri. And they put him in jail. When he was in jail, because he was very powerful yogi, he went on fasting. And then because of that, some side effects started coming. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur's son started becoming sick. Right? Before that, actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's first wife passed away after the first child. When the child was 10 months old, because of some sickness, she passed away. And then because he had only 10-month old child, who will take care? His mother arranged for another marriage. That time he was married to Bhagavata Devi, second wife. And then when they were in Jagannath Puri, they had other children also. And then one of the child becomes sick. And then she was telling, because you are trying to punish this yogi, maybe because of this, our family is carrying. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur was not disturbed by this. He was determined, because he was always against all these pseudo incarnations. Anybody who claimed to be going against Vedic literatures or Vedic principles, he was always very strict. In fact, on the day he was about to give judgment, he had a heart attack. He had a heart disturbance. But in spite of that, he went, and then he called the policeman to cut his hair, that yogi's hair, because all his power was kept in the hair. Once the hair was cut, he lost all the power. And then, after 24 hours, he left his body. Not only this, he later in Vrindavan also, people were there. There's one group called Kanjagars. They were also like occupying Vrindavan and doing all this illicit activities. And they used to rob people, dacoits. He got rid of them also. So in Jajpur, another incarnation. After, like, this guy was telling that I am actually Mahavishnu, right? This Bishak Shen. Later, another incarnation, Brahma. Somebody claimed I am Brahma. And then another guy claimed I am Balaram. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur has to deal with all this pseudo incarnations. In 1872, he came under a teacher named Gopinath Pandit. Under him, he scrutinizingly studied Srimad Bhagavatam and various commentaries of the Acharyas. In 1880, he actually started a magazine called Sajjana Toshani and Harmonist. Then also he wrote a book, Kalyana Kalpataru. So then the Kalyana Kalpataru only he gave this 3 ideas of Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana. That book, very famous book. And then this book he sent to Ralph Waldo Emerson in America, a great philosopher. Then Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote a response, appreciative letter he wrote. This is extraordinary work. I don't understand fully because this is in Sanskrit and Bengali. I don't understand everything, but I can understand the importance of this work. He appreciated the work contribution by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. 1881, he came in touch with Bipin Bihari Goswami. He took initiation from him in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. And later the same year, he went to Vrindavan. He took 2 months off from his work. He went to Vrindavan. At that time, he met Jagannath Das Babaji. And he got inspired by him. He accepted him as his Shiksha Guru. When he was in Vrindavan, right, he got a very fever, high fever. Then he started praying to the Lord. Lord, I know this fever is because of my past karma and because of my purification, I'm getting this. But I wanted to stay in Vrindavan and get spiritual inspiration. Please adjust my karma. Please postpone this karma so that later I can become sick. When I'm staying in Vrindavan, please let me stay in good health so that I can take the shelter of Holy Dham. So within 2-3 days, the fever went away. And then he nicely had, nice parikrama in various places in Vrindavan. And then later, when he went back to Bengal, he became sick. So then 1884, he came in contact with Bankim Chandra. Bankim Chandra is the one who wrote in a Vande Mataram poem, That is supposed to be our national anthem because of Nehru. Janagana Mana become, national anthem. Bankim Chandra wrote a book on Lord pastimes of Krishna called Krishna Charita. And then he gave that book. Before the book was published, the manuscript was given to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was a good friend of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He asked him to review and edit. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he read that book, there was so much of philosophical deviation, so much of wrong information was there. 90% of the book he rewrote. The name was the Krishna Charita. The author was Bankim Chandra. But the entire book was re-edited. But Bankim Chandra had this trust, good friendship with Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he allowed him to edit. 90% of the book he rewrote. No author will allow this. It's almost like an insult, But because he had such a great respect for Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he allowed. And then when the book was published, and a lot of scholars started criticizing Bankim Chandra. Because in that book it was written how Krishna is not a mythical figure, Krishna really existed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all of them is written. Why are you, all your previous books were very good, because they're all bogus books, right? Now this Krishna Charita, you are deviating from your past. This book is not good. All the scholars were chastising him. But this book was written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. In 1886, first time Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote a commentary on Bhagavata, Rasikaranjan commentary, based on the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. First time he wrote Rasikaranjan commentary in Bengali. And that for that book, preface was written by Bankim Chandra, because Bankim Chandra felt indebted to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that because he edited the book before, so hence he wrote the preface to the book. And because Bankim Chandra was very famous, this Bhagavad Gita, a lot of people started buying. A lot of people started studying Bhagavad Gita commentary written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Rasikaranjan commentary. I'll try to accelerate. I know it's 9 o'clock, another 5-10 minutes. And then later, he founded Chaitanya Press In that 1 year, he wrote 15 books, right? Chaitanya Shiksha, Amrita Pravaha Bhashya, and commentary on Chaitanya Charitamrita. He wrote Vishnu Shakshranama commentary written by Baladev Vidyabhushana. He translated it in Bengali. And then Samodhini Bhasha on Shikshashtakam, right? And then Prema Pradipa, a spiritual novel. Like the 15 books in 1 year he published. And then because he has so intense scholarly work he was doing, started having very severe headache. Very severe headache. And then he used to take only 2 things when he had a headache. He will apply some ghee, then pray to Jiva Goswami. Because Jiva Goswami is the greatest scholar, no? Original 400,000 verses. More than in one way. And Mahabharata has only 100,000 verses. Jiva Goswami, original composition of 400,000 verses he had written. Because he had done all the scholarly work, our Acharya. So he used to pray. Because of the scholarly work, he used to getting headache. He used to apply some ghee, then pray to Jiva Goswami. And then he used to get relief from the headache. And then 1887, right? He was given the title of Bhakti Vinod. At that time only he was given the title because he was so much dedicated to the path of Bhakti. And then he was experiencing the spiritual emotions. And he was so much dedicated to Bhakti and he was enjoying Bhakti so much. Right? He was given the name title Bhakti Vinod. And then he was transferred later to Rampur. But as a district magistrate, another person who was also transferred to Krishnanagar, he exchanged his job. At that time in government, now also I think something is there. If somebody wants to get transferred, mutual exchange you can get. Then he went to Krishnanagar because he wanted to be closer to Mayapur. So when he was staying in Krishnanagar, he used to go regularly with his son to Mayapur. He wanted to actually establish the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. Now, before entering, when he went to Krishnanagar, 45 days, he got malaria. He could not go to Mayapur. So before going to holy place, we have to perform austerity, purification. This is what we can learn from this life. Then after 45 days, after praying intensely to Lord Chaitanya, he got cured. Then he crossed across the river Ganges. And then he came to Mayapur, Navadip. At that time, Navadip, because over the period of time, Ganges shifted. Ganges changes its course. And then people were saying some place as, birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. But he understood that that is not the place. So he used to stay in one place called Rani Dharmashala with his son, elder son. He used to come. And then one time he was there from the top of the building. He saw that some effulgence in the night time, effulgence was coming in one area. And then when he saw that there might be something there, then he went with his son to see. When he saw a lot of tulsi bushes was growing on, then he referred the maps. After looking at the maps, various maps and how Ganges shifted over the period of time, then he understood actually this place is the center of Navadip and this is called Mayapur. Then he saw that in Chaitanya Mangala, the same Mayapur was described. The center of Navadip is Mayapur. He got now 2 evidences, empirical evidence through maps, and then he got scriptural evidence through Chaitanya Mangala. Then he wanted to get one more, right? Guru Sadhu and Shastra, right? Then he wanted to get authorization from his guru. Then he brought Jagannath Das Babaji. After bringing Jagannath Babaji, he brought at the time he was more than 100 years old. He could not walk. He used to be carried by his servant Bihari in the basket. When Jagannath Babaji came there, he jumped from this basket, and this is the birthplace. This is my Lord Chaitanya's birthplace. He found that's how the place was established. Then later, when they started digging, they found a deity of Adokshaja Vishnu, that place. So he established based on empirical evidence, scriptural evidence, spiritual evidence, archaeological evidence that this is the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. And then later, he took break from his work. He preached throughout Bengal. 2 years break from work, he preached throughout Bengal. He established for 2 years more than 500 Namakatas. He gave the blueprint for modern preaching. The Our current Bhakti Vriksha program, what we have, is actually the original blueprint is given by Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Each Namagata center, more than 1,000 people used to be there, 1,000 congregation members used to be there. So he established preaching. Then after retiring from his government duty, then he went house to house begging, please give 1 rupee, 1 rupee. He collected 1 rupee in each house to build the temple for Lord Chaitanya. Gaur Vishnu Priya Mandir at Yogapet. Right after he was a district magistrate. He had given up after retiring. Right, he did not see his comfort life. He went house to house, door to door as a beggar. He used to hold his chadar and then ask them to give, please give 1 rupee, 1 rupee. Like that, he collected and built the temple. Right. In 1891, right, that he preached, and in 1894, right, he retired to Shurabi Kunj. And then 1895, in March, Gaur Purnima, Gaur Vishnu Priya deity was established, the temple was established, right? That was inaugurated. And in 1896, his book, The Life and Precepts of Lord Chaitanya, written in English, went to Canada and America. The same year, Srila Prabhupada was born. He sent the first English book, his teachings, to American and Western libraries, North America, he sent. And then later, Prabhupada's disciples asked this question to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Bhakti Vinod Thakur was so powerful. He only sent his books. Why he didn't come to preach to America? And Prabhupada said, Prabhupada was so humble. He said, Bhakti Vinod Thakur is an eternal associate of the Lord. If he wanted, he could have preached all over the world. He could have done. But if he would have done preaching, what service we will all have? He left that service for ourselves. Prabhupada humbly said that. So the same year, when the teachings of Lord Chaitanya book went to Western world, same year Prabhupada was born. 1901, right? He wrote another book, Sri Bhagavata Arka Marichi Mala. Because Bhagavatam, the 12 cantos, right? So many pastimes, so much of philosophy is there everywhere. Philosophical thread, if you wanted to follow, you will not be able to follow. Sometimes pastime, sometimes philosophy. It's like 12 cantos, huge volume. So he wanted to present Bhagavatam, the philosophy of Bhagavatam, in a systematic way. So he prayed to Lord Chaitanya, please help me to establish the principles philosophy of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Swarup Damodar Goswami came to him and gave the guidance. Under the guidance of Swarup Damodar Goswami, he rearranged the different verses on a philosophical thread, Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana, establishing the philosophical verses. Sri Bhagavata Arka Marichi Mala, that's the book, very famous book, very, very important philosophical book. And then 1908, very important event happened. Sir William Duke, he was the collector of Calcutta. When Bhakti Vinod Thakur went to Calcutta for some seva, at that time this William Duke called him to the writer's building. And then when he came, and then he bowed to him. He actually bowed to him and he offered for forgiveness. He apologized. And Bhakti Vinod Thakur was shocked. He's like, he's a British lord. And he's like asking for forgiveness from me. At that time, that person said, when you are a district magistrate serving in the government, we in the British circle, we saw that how intelligent you were. How intelligent you were. We thought, if this guy is like this, if few more Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Kedarnath Dattas comes, we got to pack our bag and leave India. So because of that, we used to transfer you, we used to create disturbance for you, we used to be not promote you. Like that, we used to did so many things. But because you are a very spiritual person, spiritually elevated person, in my tradition, so we should, if we get committed offense, we got to ask for forgiveness. So I'm leaving India now. I might never see you. So that's why I want to ask for this forgiveness. Like that, he asked. Then later, He came to 1910, Jagannath Puri, and then he established a Bhajan Kutir. That's where he met Gaur Kishore Das Babaji. And then he used to be very inspired by Gaur Kishore Babaji. He used to invite him and come and give lectures. But Gaur Kishore Babaji was very shy. Sometimes he will go and hide. One time he went and hid in a prostitute's house. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was searching everywhere. He couldn't find. Then Bhaktivinoda Thakur has to speak. Then later Gaur Kishore Babaji, I tricked, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I tricked the Babu so that I don't have to. He gave class like that. Actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur treated him as like his guru, whereas Gaurada Kishore Das Babaji understood the elevated position of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He accepted him as his Shiksha Guru. That's how the Shiksha line was coming like that through Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji. Later, Gaur Kishore Babaji gave initiation to Bhakti Sadhana Saraswati Thakur. Like that, there is a book called Shri Bhakti Vinoda Vani Vaibhava. So this book was under the order of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Sundaranand Bhakti Vinod, right? One of the disciples of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur compiled this book, 2-volume book, the entire teachings of Bhakti Vinod Thakur in Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana format. 2-volume books are there. First volume deals with Sambandha, volume 2 deals with Prayojana and Abhideya and Prayojana. In this book, there is one chapter gives the simple glimpse into the life of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. A very nice summary gives life, the entire chronology of life of Bhakti Vinod Thakur is given. Before we end, another important thing is like how the schedule of Bhakti Vinod Thakur every day is. He used to even not waste one moment. 8 to 10 p.m. every day night, he will take rest and sleep. Only that much. 10 p.m. he will get up, wash his face. 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. he will write. And then 4 to 4:30 he will take again rest. 4:30 he will take bath and then start chanting till 7 a.m. 7 a.m. he will write, reply to the letters he receives, correspondence, he will respond. At 7:30 to 8:30, again he will read some philosophical work. 8:30 to 9:30, he will meet various guests because he was a district magistrate. Many prominent people will come to meet him. 8:30 to 9:30, he will meet. 9:30, he'll go for a small walk and then, get ready, take breakfast. Exactly at 9:55, he will leave for work. 10 a.m. every day he'll be at work. 10 to 1, he will do the work. How he will do work? Very attentively and sincerely. And he used to, whatever people used to take like 1.5 hours time, he will finish that case, read that entire case in 5 minutes, give the judgment in 2 minutes. 7, whatever it takes 1.5 hours for others, he will finish that work in 7 minutes. He used to be so efficient. And then again at 1 o'clock, he will come back, 1 to 2, he will take lunch. His lunch is very little bit of chapati and some nice regulated prasadam. And then again 2, 5, he will work. And then he will come back at work at 5 to 7, he will do translating work, translation to Bengali, various literatures. And then he will give all the dictation to his assistant secretary. At 7, he will take bath again, take little dinner prasad. And at 8, he will go to rest. This was his schedule. He always used to keep a watch with him. And that watch he will always systematically, thoroughly follow. Very regulated life. So all these things we can understand, ups and downs will come in spiritual life. One should be dedicated and sincere in the pursuit of bhakti. And then another important lesson is we should be meticulous in managing our time. Like that, several lessons we can learn from Bhakti Vinod Thakur's life on this auspicious day of Disappearance Day of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Let's all pray to Bhakti Vinod Thakur to receive his blessings and mercy so that we can progress the path of bhakti, and then we can share this invaluable gift, right, coming from Lord Chaitanya through the parampara from our Prabhupada and Prabhupada's followers. We are all receiving it. Whatever we received, we should share so we can get empowered by the blessings of Bhakti Vinod Thakur to preach. So we pray to Bhakti Vinod Thakur and Srila Prabhupada to give their blessings on this auspicious day, especially on the appearance and disappearance day of the Acharyas. We get special mercy when we pray to them. So, Hare Krishna. So, please all of you give your blessings. So, whatever I spoke, if any mistake is there, please forgive me, and thanks for tolerating and listening. So, this is very enlivening for me, especially to listen this past times, this book, as well as I had one lecture from Gauranga Prabhu. He had a very nice lecture on Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So, this was the reference I used, this lecture and this book. So, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Shila Prabhupada ki, Shila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki, Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Chaitanya Charitamrita ki, Jai. Jai Gaura Premanande. Hare Krishna. Any Hare Krishna. Any comments? Any questions? I know it's a little late. Yeah, just approach. Met Jagannath Das Babaji, Shiksha Guru. And our line, Shiksha line, our line, Parampara is a Shiksha line. Shiksha line only our Parampara is. So that's why it's mentioned like that in Guru Parampara. Diksha is important, but more important that following the instruction of the Parampara. So that gives importance of Shiksha. Because sometimes, Guru is like initiating and he's traveling, he's going everywhere in the world. He's not there. So our Shiksha Gurus are actually representing the Diksha Guru. So because only by Shiksha we can be reformed, no? Yes, Diksha is a very important event, but that is not sufficient, no? Diksha means it's the initiation, beginning. It is not over. You are getting connected to the parampara, but after that, that's Diksha means that's the beginning, initiation. Initiation means starting. You're just enrolled in the school. After that, you got to study under the teacher. So Shiksha is very important. That's why Shiksha is given more importance. Diksha is important, but Shiksha line, we have to follow the Shiksha line. Sometimes, because of our misfortune, the spiritual master might deviate also. We had seen it, no? In our life. People who are taken shelter of the Shiksha of Prabhupada. In ISKCON, preeminent Shiksha Guru for all time to come. For everybody in ISKCON is Srila Prabhupada. As long as we are under the shelter and Shiksha of Srila Prabhupada, we will not deviate. Some of the Prabhupada disciples are very powerful and prominent. They're all going back to Godhead by Prabhupada's mercy. But by some arrangement, they might have left the movement or deviated something. We should not commit offense. But when it happened, now people devotees who had taken shelter of Shiksha, they continued the Bhakti. Because it's a very traumatic event when a spiritual master deviates or leaves. But whoever had taken strong shelter of the Shiksha, they will not be bewildered. So that is why Shiksha line is given more importance. That is why in the Bhagavad Gita, our Shiksha line is mentioned. Right? Okay, Prabhu? Any other comments? Yes, Prabhu. That actually, if you look at before Prabhupada, 64 rounds was there. That is for generally full-time devotees. For Grihasthas, some concession was given. Grihasthas, some concession was given at the time. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, for full-time devotees, 64 rounds. For Grihasthas, concession was given. Even Prabhupada also, no, used to chant 16 rounds only. So Prabhupada's life, right? Used to divide the 16 rounds into four rounds, right? 4 rounds in the morning, 4 rounds during lunchtime, 4 rounds in the evening, again 4 rounds in the night time before going to bed, like that. So that concession was given to Grihasthas. So when Prabhupada was started the movement in West, a lot of them are all full-time devotees only. So according to the standard given by Bhakti Thakur, everybody has to chant 64 rounds. That means no time for preaching, no time for anything else. So Prabhupada made the concession for all the devotees. Because already the precept was there for Grihasthas. Some concession was given. Of course, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, later he was doing bhajan. So much bhajan was there. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, 1 crore names of the Lord Krishna, he chanted, right? Before preaching. Right? 1 crore name, he chanted. 9 years he took. So when it used to rain, he didn't have time to repair the roof also. He used to just hold umbrella and chant. He took a vow not to speak to anybody until he completes 1 crore name of Krishna. Before he was ready to go to the city of Calcutta to preach. So by Prabhupada's mercy, at least, we can do, because it's very difficult in focus in Kali Yuga. Prabhupada saw that our fallen condition, he reduced it to 16 mala. Hare Krishna. Any other comments? Because all their activities are bhajan only, na? He was writing from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. That writing is also chanting only. Now Prabhupada says, na, we never see Arjuna chanting with the beads. For Arjuna, the chanting is fighting in the war, fighting in the battlefield. When Arjuna was taking rest, every hair was chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Right? We hear. So when the acharyas, right, they are like chanting only. Shravanam and Kirtanam only they are doing writing. 24/7. What we are doing? So, but we should utilize the time very carefully. 2 hours at least we should dedicate for chanting, and then rest of the time we should do service. Serve now, samadhi later. Prabhupada said this, no? At age when we are not able to do much service, walk and do other services, then we can chant and chant 64 rounds. We can chant every day. Then you can become like Haridas Thakur, 196 rounds also you can chant. Hare Krishna. 192 rounds. Hare Krishna. Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna devotees. Thank you all for joining. Says Grace Madhav Chandra Prabhu ki jai. His Divine Grace Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. We'll just wait for darshan of the Lord, then we'll end the meeting. Sorry, bit more delayed.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Prabhu. Thanks.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so I think the host is not showing that. We'll end the meeting here. Okay, 1 second. Darshan. Okay. Bhagwan ki jai. Gauranitai ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So we'll end the meeting now.